What is the market and how does it work? Hi guys, Praxgirl here. In our last episode, we laid the groundwork for understanding the method in which catalactics, the market-specific subset of praxeology, studies how prices are determined in a market. We found that studying the market is not as simple as just taking into account that which we can see, but requires factoring in the unseen as well. In this lesson, I will start to describe all of the essential characteristics of the market economy. I will explain how the market differs from other systems, introduce the concept of income, and I will explain the power structure of a free market. When we hear people refer to the market, it often brings up specific ideas like the stock market or a flea market or a supermarket. But the market is not a place, a thing, or a collective entity. The market is a process. This process is the outcome of all the voluntary exchanges performed by individuals when they are free to control their property and direct it to where they believe it will be put to best use. Therefore, the market is distinguished amongst other conceivable systems by the fact that it is not run by any central planner. All other systems, commonly called socialism, communism, planned economy, mixed economy, and resource-based economy, differ sharply in that their key feature is always some form of public or governmental ownership of property. Specifically, they aim to remove the operation of the market and prices from the factors of production. Everyone engaging in the market process acts free from violence to satisfy their own ends. But as we have come to see from the logic of voluntary exchange, everyone in acting for themselves is simultaneously acting to achieve the satisfaction of others. In very strict praxeological terms, what this translates into is that everyone in a market is both a means and an end in acting. An individual is an end because he acts to satisfy himself, and he is a means because his actions serve other people to attain their own ends. As we've seen, when people engage in exchange, a price arises as the ratio between the two goods they are trading. Through exchange, money quickly arises and allows for everyone to have a common denominator. This common denominator communicates information. This information tells producers where to produce, what to produce, how to produce, and in what quantity. Producers are all those individuals who engage in the process of either buying or constructing capital goods. We called this process the accumulation of capital because the goods in question were the result of individuals consuming less than they otherwise could with the purpose of consuming more in the future. These capital goods can only come into existence through saving. Once we understood the notion of capital, we appropriately called the individuals who save as capitalists. Therefore, the term capitalism encompasses the two aspects of the system that we are talking about. 1. The market process in which economic calculation becomes possible and thus is most valuable for the savers. 2. The fact that there is private ownership of these means of production. The modes of acting available to the individuals in a market differs too. Unlike other systems, in the market economy, man has the ability to perform economic calculation. This function provided by money allows men to think in terms of accounting because of a common denominator good. Rather than having to check his stock of capital goods, a man can determine his situation by considering only his money. One of the key ideas that a market opens to a man's accounting is his ability to differentiate between his capital and his income. As men try to act to achieve their desires, they draw a mental line between the consumption of present goods and of future goods they plan to consume. Their immediate goal is to increase or at least preserve the goods that they plan to employ for further action, the capital. Income is any money which a man can enjoy in a specific time period without consuming his capital. Differentiating income from capital thus enables market participants to live within their means, a mode of calculation not present in any other societal systems. The main tasks of economic calculation, therefore, are to establish the magnitudes of income, saving, and capital consumption. We've understood that in a market, money prices and economic calculation help the owners of capital goods to employ them for the most fruitful end. Now, one may be quick to deduce from this that capitalists may have some sort of inherent power over the consumers. It has been claimed time and time again that since the capitalists are in the control of the means of production, they hold society hostage to move in the direction they whimsically choose. Nothing could be further from the truth. First off, we must remember that everyone who participates in the market acts as both the buyer and a seller, a consumer and a producer, a capitalist and a worker. For example, everyone who saves more money than they could otherwise consume becomes a capitalist. We fill the different roles that praxeology will define as categories of action again and again, sometimes in the same instant, and sometimes during different periods of our lives. The praxeological terms capitalist, entrepreneur, producer, consumer, laborer are simply used to differentiate between modes of acting. These terms do not signify actual people. With that said, let us consider the power structure in a market with an example. Suppose Steve Jobs wants to sell Apple computers on the market for the highest possible profit. Steve, being a selfish man with little remorse, puts a very high price tag on the products. If Steve doesn't meet the demands of the consumers as they are conveyed to him by the structure of market prices, he suffers losses, and his company goes bankrupt. This very situation happened to Apple during the mid-1990s. They failed to properly follow the direction the public wanted them to go in and almost went out of business. In the market, just as a producer can withhold his product from sale or raise the price exorbitantly high, a consumer can withhold his money from being exchanged for the product. Thus, the market process gives every individual sovereignty over his property, but communicates the consequences of their chosen actions. It could be said, metaphorically, that in the market, everyone as a producer and consumer casts a vote on who should be running the factories and who should be selling computers. The market can make poor men rich and rich men poor. However, there's a large difference between democracy and the market. This is because while in democracy only the majority elected leaders are instrumental in shaping the direction of change, in the market every vote counts. There is no vote which goes wasted. There are Apple computers for people who can afford a product of certain premium quality, but there are also PCs for the cost-conscious consumer. There are even $100 tablet computers made for poor children in third world nations. It is also true that in the market, not all consumers have the same voting right. The rich cast more votes than the poorer citizens, but this inequality is itself the outcome of a previous voting process. To be rich in a pure market economy is the outcome of success in filling the best demands of the consumers. And since we now know what income is, we understand that a wealthy man can preserve his wealth only by continuing to serve the consumers in the most efficient way. In the market, no group or class has sovereignty over anyone else. All individuals are limited to making the decisions over their own property as to how to proceed. In their strife to achieve satisfaction, they are guided by the actions of all other individuals connected to the market. The market is a product of a long evolutionary process. It is the outcome of man's endeavors to adjust his action in the best possible way to the given conditions of the environment that he cannot alter. The reason praxeology centers its studies in the pure market economy is because it is the only pattern of human action which has brought about calculation. In fact, calculation was necessary in order for praxeology to emerge as a discipline. This is because only until there was money, and therefore calculation, was it possible for scientists to realize that there can be inherent problems in calculated action. At first, all the sciences of human action were essentially limited to studying money. The scientists were called economists, and they investigated questions regarding currency, money, lending, and trade between nations. It was only after these economists fully grasped the logic of exchange that they realized this mode of thinking could be applied to all human behavior and developed a general theory of all action, praxeology. I'll see you guys in the next lesson.